So we are back in study session. This is item A2, receive a legislative update from the State Representative Julie Johnson. And so, Ms. Johnson, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to speak to us. We're very interested in your thoughts on the current legislature, what your legislative priorities are, and how you are supporting the City of Farmers Branch. So I'll turn it back to you, and then I'll for anything you want to say, and then we can I'll throw it open to the council for questions.
Oh, absolutely. I'm going to spend the most of my time just taking your questions, but you know, the legislature we are in hot, busy mode right now. It is really intense. We're having a very active floor calendar, as many of you probably saw in the news. Last week we had a very aggressive debate on permitless carry of weapons in the state. That was 8 hours of floor debate on that one bill alone. This week, the big issue up on the agenda is we have the state budget on Thursday, so everyone has been working on filing amendments. I have had the privilege to serve on the Appropriations Committee, and so I have been appointed to Article 2 of Appropriations, which is the healthcare piece. And so we've been really focused on healthcare policy and funding. And one of the priorities that we've had up here with the Dallas delegation, the North Texas delegation rather, is trying to secure funding for a permanent mental health facility here in Dallas County, a dedicated facility. And I'm very pleased that we have secured that initial funding of $48 million to start the plan and budgeting process of a dedicated mental health facility. So that has been a key priority of ours to work for and navigate on the public health arena. So anyway, that's kind of what's happening right now. Obviously, an issue I'm sure that's important to the City of Farmers Branch is taxpayer-funded lobby efforts. You know, I continue to oppose those. I do believe that the cities need to have representation down here, and it's not feasible for most cities to hire a full-time staff person to manage legislation, to be able to pool your resources in order to effectively advocate for issues affecting cities and counties. But those bills are certainly moving. They did not pass last session. That has passed the Senate. It's coming to the House. We have not taken that bill up on the House floor yet. I'm expecting that to come. What else? I also serve on the Judiciary Committee and Civil Jurisprudence. There's been a lot of bills about different stuff affecting the legal and the justice system and courts and court reorganizations and that sort of issue. But I serve on that committee as well, and we're just now starting to gear up on having more heavy floor calendars. The last several weeks we have spent in a lot of committee hearings. I've laid out several bills today. Actually, I don't know if you recall from the newspaper, the families of the 18 people that were murdered in the senior living facility in Carrollton. We've been working with Senator Nathan Johnson and Jared Patterson and John Turner on a suite of bills to help protect senior security. So those families came down from our district today and testified at 3 o'clock. So that committee went long. So that's kind of where things are right now. It's a general overtake, but welcome any questions that you guys have, and would love to see what's on your mind.
Okay, thank you, Julie. Questions? Terry.
Thank you, Representative, for being here. So I just want to know, are you in favor of local control of cities? Are you supporting that initiative?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I've been a strong proponent of local control. You know, I feel like you guys are awesome. You certainly know the issues affecting Farmers Branch at a much more intimate, detailed level than us at the state level. We know issues affecting the state level much better than those at the federal level. You know, every level of government has its function and its role, and I have consistently voted for and supported efforts for our local cities and counties to do their job and to do, y'all are on the front lines with our shared constituents. And, you know, I certainly don't want to have the burden of regulating the trash bin debate in Farmers Branch. I want you guys to do that. You know, that seems to be one of the most prolific issues. But no, all serious, kidding aside, you know, I think, you know, you guys need to be able to do your job and need to be empowered to do your job. And it's not my job to do your job. So yes, I strongly believe in that.
Okay, and just so, I'm sorry, just so I make sure that I understand correctly, with respect to the lobbying efforts down in Austin, you support our efforts to be able to have a lobbying representative down there rather than just trying to rely on just a citizen or a council person to go, but having more of a full-time presence?
Absolutely. I think each city needs to make that determination for themselves. And if a city wants to go in with other cities and retain a lobbyist because they have a specific issue or need, they should be able to do that. If a city chooses to not do that and chooses to have a council member person do that, they should have that right to decide whatever works best for them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Christophe?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Representative, for joining us. I know that you're quite busy during this time, so we really appreciate your time. One of the questions was related to local control that my colleague talked about. I know that there's a few bills, and so I appreciate your support on those. You know, I won't get into too much into the weeds, but in regards to, I know that healthcare has been a huge issue regarding, especially in Texas and all over the world, really, but especially in Texas with some of the gaps in care and having you in Article 2. I know that you've been a champion for healthcare, and so do you have any insights you can give us related to some of those expansion bills related to Medicaid? I know that you all have a few, and Senator Johnson has been a champion on that as well. Do you have any insights as to kind of where they're going and where they will go in the next few weeks?
Well, funny that you ask, because one of the reasons why I couldn't jump right on at 4 o'clock is because I was meeting with the Speaker's office about that very issue. You know, yes, I have House Bill 3871, which is the House companion to Senator Johnson's Senate bill. It's the Live Well Texas program. I have worked very hard. We have 71 co-sponsors on that bill so far in the House, 7 of whom are Republicans. We definitely have the votes to get it passed on the floor. As you well know, probably the federal government revoked the CMS extension waiver for the state this past Friday. So that really has changed the narrative. A letter came out today with many of the chambers of commerce and over 200 groups supporting Medicaid expansion and really increasing access to care. But there's been a lot of resistance from old-line Republicans to not want to have that discussion or that vote. So far, it hasn't been set for a committee vote, and there seems to be a lot of politics. The best analogy I have is a lot of Republican members have said, you know, this is a really good bill. It addresses all the concerns. It's really positive policy, but I just don't want to be out there on an island. I'm like, oh, you're like a bunch of kindergartners needing to hold hands and jump into the pool together. And, and that's what it kind of feels like. So, you know, I think that I don't think the bill's going to pass this session, but I think that we've had some really positive movement and some really positive dialogue. And actually, the speaker indicated that there might be an opportunity to have a substantial discussion on this in a special session that we're going to have because of redistricting. So that would be great, you know, if we can have that. And so those are some of the meetings that I'm starting to have right now about when is going to be the timing for that. There's a lot of other priorities that the governor has set forth for this session that I don't think they want to get sidetracked by Medicaid expansion, but I think there's probably might be some appetite in the special that'll happen in the fall. I hope so.
No, thank you. And I know that, you know, there are a couple of bills I know we're tracking, a lot of them regarding police reform. And so I know that you are, you know, against some of those and for some of those, obviously, I think we've sent correspondence regarding those. But in regards to, just to not belabor, because I know you're really busy, can you just give us some insights on redistricting? I've heard several different timelines for that, and I know that's something that you just mentioned that we're going to be in special session for that, but can you give us some insights?
Sure. So we're expecting to get, I believe the Biden administration issued some guidance a few months ago that we're going to get the official data, the official census data in September. And so we are all expecting to be in a special session on redistricting in October. And that's what we're and then in Dallas County, what's very interesting is House 115, our district, we've had the largest population growth of any district in Dallas County by a lot. So I'm going to be the only district that has to give up territory because we've had over 6% growth. Most of the districts, Terry Mays' district, House 105, has had some growth, but not to the extent that I've had. But the predictions are that our district will have the largest population growth. So there will definitely be lines redrawn. I'm expecting Morgan Meyer, House 108, they will shore him up with some of the Republicans from John Turner's district, I'm expecting. But Dallas County will largely be redrawn by the Dallas County delegation, from what I understand. Because we're not expected to gain a seat or lose a seat. Whereas a lot of other areas will have an adjustment. So Collin County and Denton County are both expected to add a seat. So their lines will have to be redrawn to incorporate a new House seat. Rural Texas is going to lose a lot of seats. And so there's going to be a lot of hard feelings on the Republican side because they're just going to kind of eat their own a little bit. The districts are going to be consolidated. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens, but Dallas County should hold serve, and where we are in our district should look substantially similar, not have anything too dramatic, although we probably will lose some because of our population increase.
Got it. Well, thank you so much, and that's it for me on my end. I appreciate your time, and I love seeing your Farmers Branch pictures in your background. Thank you for supporting.
Historic park.
I know, it's so great. I thank you guys so much. So I have all the cities back
I love
here. It's so awesome, right?
Yeah.
It's in all my Zoom backgrounds.
There you go. Thank you so much. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Mayor Mike Baumgartner.
Thank you for sharing your time with us today. First question I have is about the conversation that's going on about sales tax, maybe moving to location of receipt as opposed to the shipping location. And, this creates a lot of problems. First of all, the shipping location is really the location that gets the majority of the infrastructure costs as products arrive and leave on our roads, and our police force and our fire support that for security. Also is going to create a huge problem if that passes, that we have a number of agreements with companies based on the past that will have to be renegotiated, that are going to create some not only lost revenue, but tremendous legal costs to go back and rework and rewrite that. So I'm curious where you stand on that.
Oh, I strongly oppose that bill. It has a huge negative impact on our district. Farmers Branch, Carrollton, and Coppell in particular, they're expected to lose something like $18 million out of their budget by adjusting the destination tax location. The unfortunate part of that is Morgan Meyer, right there in Dallas, he's chairman of Ways and Means. This is his bill. The chairman of Calendars, Dustin Burrows, was chair of Ways and Means last time. He's a joint author on this bill, and it's gonna pass. But I'm definitely in opposition to it. It's an interesting group of us who have cities and who are really negatively impacted. Republican and Democrat alike, we're a bipartisan group that have regular working groups and meetings, and our staff coordinate a lot to try to do what we can for an amendment strategy to try to weaken the effects of this bill, extend the timelines, to where it's not such an immediate impact. Yes, I oppose this bill vigorously, and am part of the working group to try to see what we can do to attack the bill. But in all candor, it has the support of the upper leadership of the Republicans who are in the majority of the House, and it's going to pass. And that's just me telling you the truth.
Yeah.
I wish I could say, oh, we're going to be able to kill it, but we're not.
Yeah. Okay, well, the other question I have is about police immunity. And what is going on with that, and where you stand on that right now? Not only
Well, there's a
us,
lot of different bills about that. You know, I voted against a measure to remove immunity in our JCJ committee the other day. There was a bill authored by Republican Mace Middleton out of Galveston to try to remove immunity from prosecutors who didn't want to prosecute things. And my argument in that is, you know, we have governmental immunity for a reason, and it extends across a variety of issues. We have prosecutorial immunity, we have judicial immunity, we have legislative immunity, we have police immunity, and the reasons that those immunities are in place. And that's to incentivize people to do public service, to do that job to the best of their ability. And there are other mechanisms to hold those entities accountable for the actions of those individuals. And I think actually, you know, so I'm not in favor of those in a general term. Obviously, the devil is in the details on each one of the different bills. There's probably 30 different immunity-based bills that are floating around. My general theory on it is, you know, we have those immunities in place for a reason, and they're designed to incentivize people to go in and do this work and to serve in public service. Obviously, certain handcuffs need to be, certain regulations need to be out there for people that abuse that power and abuse that role, but there's a reason the immunity is there, and it's a good one.
So do you have a sense of how that is going to,
You know, a lot, like the George Floyd Act is not going to get passed. It's not moving, and that's what has housed the majority of the police reform bills, and so that's not going to get moved. Whether or not some smaller tweaks get passed, they haven't come to the House floor yet, and so those, like I said, the one that was in our committee did not pass. So I'm not on criminal jurisprudence to see if there are some other committees coming through that. They have not made it to the House floor. So I'm not entirely sure where they are, but I think generally there's not going to be, I would be surprised to see movement on that.
okay. And then my last question is about street racing. And, you know, there's a bill to put some teeth into street racing to prevent it. You know, what's your stance on that? What do you think?
I think I voted for it. We passed it out of the House, right?
We-
Yeah, Carl
So-
Sherman had a bill to prohibit that. I voted for it and we passed it out of the House. It's now in the Senate's hands.
Okay, great.
Fingers crossed, because that one's been a huge issue in my district.
It's Nathan's fault. It's not our fault.
Yeah, that's been a huge district issue in District 1, so I'm so glad it passed out of the House. Thank you so much for your support on that.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Absolutely.
Councilmember Lynn, I think you had a follow-up.
Sure, Representative. So we were talking about sales tax to Councilman Baumgartner's question, and you expect this new legislation to pass, correct?
I do.
Okay, so we're not unlike any other city that is going to end up costing our city millions of dollars in sales tax receipts. So you know what the flip side of that is? That revenue's
Yes, I would encourage each one of you all to go scream at Morgan Meyer and the chairman of Ways and Means. And tell them
we can certainly try to do that, but in the meantime, while this bill goes into effect, you know, how do you make up the shortfall it's going to come out of your pocket and my pocket and every other resident in Farmers Branch. So do we have an idea of when this would go into effect?
Well, it has to
Provided it
pass
passes?
first. You know, so there's, like I said, there's a bipartisan coalition of members opposing the bill, of which I am part of. It has not come to the House floor yet, but my sense of things is that it has strong momentum. It has not passed the Senate, so there's still opportunities over there. My expectation is it's probably going to pass. The comptroller wants it to pass. The chair of calendars and the chair of ways and means want it to pass. So that's some pretty strong opposition. But yeah.
So I guess in looking at this, how are cities going to balance the property tax cap with
Exactly.
the loss of sales tax revenue?
Right.
That money has, that's a real number, and it's a real operating figure number that is going to have to be made up.
I agree. And so there's a lot of amendments out there that are being discussed, one of which is to give cities a one-time hall pass to adjust the tax rate to accommodate for the loss of that. There's a variety of other amendments out there. You know, when obviously on a bill like this, I will be in close contact with Charles Cox and the mayor. We usually in the session, as the session goes, when we have hot issues that affect the city, I have a text chain with them during any key amendments, and we discuss the impact that it will have on Farmers Branch kind of in real time. And that's certainly what we did last session with HB2. And I'm expecting to do that again when this bill comes up. I mean, this bill is very concerning to a lot of cities in the state. The problem is you have a lot of rural Republicans who think it's great because all of a sudden, you know, there are those that are going to gain and those that are going to not. And but we'll just continue to keep you posted on the actual text of the bill and as it's amended. It's my understanding they're offering a committee substitute that has not been posted yet. So obviously we'll be very anxious to see the details of that. Will be Genesis after the hearing. So that's the best information I have for you at the moment.
Thank you. I think Mr. Driscoll has a question.
Yes. Hi, Representative Johnson.
Hi.
Thanks for being with us today and for the update you've given us so far. And I haven't heard anything really in the news here, kind of legislative updates that have covered a lot of the issues we've been speaking about. But obviously, the Biden administration is making a very large push for an infrastructure bill. And it does seem to have some pretty solid bipartisan support in Washington. Is there much discussion in Austin about that? And just adding on a footnote there, I read a report just I think last week that some group of engineers, you know, just professional engineers, nothing partisan, did a study state by state on the infrastructure status of every state in the country. And Texas was #1 in the category of, I forgot the number, it was thousands of bridges that are way out of date and past their, you know, sell-by date. And as our state population grows, and you're talking about how much this area is growing, and we all know that, and it's going to continue for the obvious reasons. So transportation infrastructure and just infrastructure in general is going to be very, very important to be able to take care of this growth in population. Is there much discussion about infrastructure at all in Austin right now?
Not specifically. The general instruction, the general conversation, I want to just take it out of up 10,000 feet and just talk about all of the federal programs. So not only do you have the transportation bill that's on the table, but it hasn't passed yet. And so the devil is always, again, we have to see the details of the bill. But even if you look at the American Recovery Act that was passed and the previous CARES Act bills, there's a lot of, the biggest issue that we see people talking about right now is school funding and what to do with $18 billion in school funding. What are we going to, how's this going to affect in different healthcare fundings? And are we going to be able to replace general revenue with some of the federal dollars to free up to do some other programs? And where it is right now, we've had a lot of testimony about this in appropriations, and I would expect the transportation piece to be on a similar line, which is right now, we're still waiting on federal guidance as to how the money can be spent. The state is very concerned about actually spending the money until we know what are the rules. Because if you don't follow the rules, then the federal government can come and take the money back after it's been spent, which is a problem. So right now, there's been a lot of requests for explanation, requests for detailed explanations of different questions on the American Recovery Act in particular, and the CARES Act funding for how it can be used. Right now, one of the holds up in education is spending on public ed have been tied to higher ed, and there's some performance measures in the higher ed piece that the state doesn't feel like they can comply with, which is affecting the funding on the public ed piece. And so they're trying to get some clarification on that, and that's why none of the money has been spent. I would imagine probably in the transportation side, something similar will happen when the bill gets passed, because you're right, Texas, is in desperate need of critical infrastructure spending, as we learned. We passed a series of bills relating to ERCOT and the grid, and we've passed probably 15 bills about that, but we still need to address other critical infrastructure such as water and roads and everything else. And so, but they're going to wait to see what the money is, what the bill is, what the details of the bill that actually gets passed, how much of it's going to be allocated to Texas, what are we going to be able to do with that. One of the big fights we're having in the legislature right now is, how is the legislature going to spend the money when we're not in session? Because, session ends May 31st, but those funds aren't going to come in until after that. And so they're having a big fight with the governor's office on, does the legislature get to do our constitutional authority as appropriators, or is the governor going to get to spend the money? And of course, the governor's office wants to spend the money, and the legislature wants to spend it, and we're in a fight right now. So that's kind of the inside scoop on that.
Thank you very much.
So I'm trying to be sensitive to your time. I'm not seeing anybody else had any questions they want to ask, so I'll throw it back to you if you had anything closing, anything you wanted us to be aware of, anything we could do to support you in your efforts down in Austin.
No, just thank you so much. I'm so thrilled to have this opportunity to visit with you. Obviously I live in Farmers Branch, and the issues that face the city are very important to me. And my only request is just keep me posted. If there's a particular bill that you have some concerns about, please reach out to me. I want to be a good, strong partner and communicate with you. I hear from some of you. I don't hear from others of you. I welcome to hear from each one of you. But I just want to thank Charles for always being a good partner and always open. He always is so responsive anytime I ask a question about something. And so if everyone was as responsive as you, Charles, it would be great. So I just want to thank you so much for always being there and being such a good companion in this journey with me as we try to just get the best policy for the city and for the state. So just let me know of how I can be of service to you all and what I can do for you. And I appreciate the collaboration very, very much.
Great. Well, thank you so much. So we understood you were available for 15 more minutes, but we're going to give it back to you because we know you can probably use that time. So thank you so much, Representative Johnson.
All right. Thank you very much. Thanks for all the hard work you're doing.
Thank you. Yes. So I need to adjourn study session or what? It's already adjourned, but.
Adjourn and reconvene.
Okay, so I'm going to adjourn study session at 5:34. We're going to reconvene upstairs to finish out executive session discussion.